I stand in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, casting a golden hue on the aged countertops. The scent of garlic and onions sizzling in olive oil fills the air, wrapping around me like a warm hug. This is our sanctuary, Michael's and mine, where we created countless memories, the heart of our little world. I smile at the thought of him, my pride and joy, even as I chop vegetables with precision, recalling the many lessons I imparted during those early years. Cooking is love made visible, I murmured to him once as we kneaded dough for bread on a Sunday afternoon, flour dusting our faces and laughter echoing through the room. I remember how his small hands struggled to fold the dough as I guided him gently, our shared excitement palpable, the kitchen filled with the warmth of our bond. Those were the days when Michael looked up to me, cherishing my every word, seeking my guidance as I taught him more than just recipes. I was imparting life lessons, values I hoped he would carry forever. As I weave through the dance of cooking, I allow myself to bask in nostalgia. I recall all those cherished moments, reading bedtime stories, his laughter resonating like music, his head nestled against my shoulder. My heart swells with fondness as I lay the table meticulously, ensuring each setting reflects the care I've always poured into our meals. The dishes, an array of vibrant colors, represent my soulful devotion. The roasted chicken glazed with lemon, the bright green beans sautéed with almonds, and the rich mashed potatoes simmering beside them. Yet, there's an undercurrent of unease bubbling beneath the surface. I noticed the fridge door ajar, and in that moment, I could almost hear Michael's voice echoing through the hallway, asking for a snack just as he used to when he was little. My heart aches with longing, a bitter tang mixing with the sweetness of memories. Where did the time go? What happened to the vibrant exchanges we once shared? The walls seem to sigh as I remember our Sunday dinners filled with warmth and laughter, but those days have grown distant. I've watched, helpless, as the growing gap between us has become an unspoken truth. The last holiday gathering feels like a blur, so distant, but still so painfully vivid. I prepared meticulously, hopeful that my offerings would draw him closer, as they used to, but I was met with silence that echoed louder than any words. I shake my head, trying to dispel the creeping shadows of doubt. I once believed that strong bonds could withstand anything, that love could triumph over the trials we faced. But now, standing here alone, I begin to question everything. Was my dedication sufficient? Did I give too much of myself, believing he would always be my little boy, forever grateful for a nurturing mother? As I stir the simmering sauce, I realize that each movement encapsulates a memory, a lesson of love and resilience. The warmth envelops me, momentarily shielding me from my growing dread. I promise myself I won't lose what we had. I refuse to let a daughter-in-law dictate my place in this family. I'll draw from that love and strength. I can't allow the whispers of insecurity to drown out my voice or my rightful place in Michael's life. After all, a mother's sacrifice doesn't dissolve in the presence of another. No, I'll reclaim my role, not just as his mother, but as the woman who nurtured him to be the man he is today. And so, I breathe deep, feeling my resolve harden. I can still reach him, still find a way to restore our bond, to overcome the shadows that have crept in. I won't let Jessica's contempt diminish what I've built. I'm worthy of being revered and respected, and I will remind them that they can mute me at the table, never in my heart. This is just the beginning. A few months later, I stood at my kitchen counter again, slicing fresh herbs with a deftness that spoke of years in the kitchen. The aroma wafted around me, rich and inviting. It was the day of our first family gathering since Jessica wed Michael. I had put so much effort into this meal, hoping it would unify us all, a celebration of family, love, and new beginnings. But as I set the table, arranging fine china and polished silverware, a tight knot formed in my stomach. When Jessica first entered our lives, she brought with her an air of confidence that charmed everyone. From the first time she smiled at Michael in that quaint cafe, to their wedding day enveloped in warmth and laughter. I remember that day clearly. The sun was bright, and I was overflowing with joy watching my son take vows beside her, imagining a future filled with love, laughter, and unity. Yet, the very traits I admired soon revealed a darker side. As the months passed, subtle shifts began to unravel the fabric of my once happy family. My heart sank when I noticed Jessica's biting comments disguised as humor, the sly glances directed toward my cooking. She stepped in with such ease, assuming the role of not just Michael's wife, but as the orchestrator of our family dynamics. The first dinner she joined us, I labored over my signature roast, seasoning it with love and anticipation. As we gathered at the table, her jabs began light but unpredictable. "Oh, this is quite interesting," she'd say, tilting her head, her smile veiling a hint of scorn. I brushed it off, thinking it was all in good fun. Yet, over time, her remarks transformed from teasing to open criticism. The tension grew noticeable in the air, hanging like an unwelcome guest. During a cherished moment when I excitedly recounted a story from Michael's childhood, how he once attempted to bake cookies for his school bake sale but ended up covering the kitchen in flour, Jessica rolled her eyes, interjecting, "I hope he's learned to cook properly nowadays." Beneath Michael's indifferent smile, I sensed an undercurrent of discomfort. It felt alarming. My son, who used to bask in my anecdotes, appeared more like a spectator in his own narrative, wedged between his mother's pride and his wife's keen judgment. Yet the real thorn stuck in my heart came when Michael started adopting her perspectives. Our cherished family traditions, once rooted in love and affection, were questioned and dismissed under her critical gaze. The holidays felt increasingly hollow, as if the laughter and warmth were mere echoes of the past, fading into the shadows. During one particular gathering last spring, I had prepared hours in advance, infusing love into each dish. But when I arrived, Jessica had already set up takeout boxes from her favorite eatery. The smells of fried food clashed violently with the comfort of my simmering stew. "I wanted to give everyone a break," she exclaimed brightly, bright eyes twinkling as she looked to the family, clearly hostile to my efforts. Michael's nod of agreement felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I swear I saw the corners of her lips lift as she noted my suppressed reaction. That meal turned into a battlefield. My carefully curated table replaced by cardboard containers filled with spaghetti and garlic bread. I forced myself to maintain a cheerful facade while inside, resentment and sadness battled for dominion over my heart. Thereafter, the gatherings became increasingly strained. Subtle messages turned to scathing remarks. Every comment I made seemingly transformed into fodder for her disdain. I began to recognize this wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a carefully crafted campaign to displace me from my own family. Yet, I still held hope. Perhaps the transition of roles was simply a period of adjustment. Jessica was a new element, and change can be a daunting force. For a flickering moment, I clung to the memories of warmth we once shared, convincing myself that she might eventually see my intentions. I rehearsed potential paths to meld our families, to create understanding amid discord. But each day those flickers dimmed further. I noticed how she turned the children's hearts against me with whispered tales during their sleepovers. "Grandma's too soft," I overheard Lily say on a rare quiet evening, her innocent voice breaking against the background of my encroaching despair. My heart cracked as I realized I was losing more than my figure in family dynamics. I was losing my grandchildren too. The sour aftertaste of dread stayed lingering. I could feel it pooling in my stomach during those long, quiet evenings. Alone, I faced my reality, seeing my nurturing spirit diluted amid a tide of mockery. Days turned into months. This was not just familial tension, but a fierce struggle for identity within my own home. Underneath Jessica's charm lay a depth of calculation that I hadn't fully grasped before. As I washed the dinner plates, I could almost hear Michael's voice, the laughter from our shared stories, and the affectionate moments when he sought me out in a world of innocence. I had to find a way to anchor us back to those memories before they became lost in the noise she created. I knew I had to act. Subtly, of course. I needed to find the strength to rise, to revive the joy I once felt from the meals we shared, and reclaim my cherished role or watch helplessly as my life unraveled. The unspoken truth loomed. I must face Jessica not just with love, but with conviction. I would not be silenced or overshadowed. I had nurtured my son, and now it was time to protect my place with unwavering resolve. As autumn settled in, I felt the chill deepen, not only in the air, but within my interactions with Jessica. Our family gatherings, once a haven of warmth, began to resemble a battlefield where her quips felt like salt in open wounds. I couldn't shake the feeling that each gathering was another round in a game I wasn't invited to play. When Michael's birthday rolled around, I was both excited and apprehensive. I had tirelessly planned the day, pouring love into every dish, his favorite lasagna layered with richness and care, and a devil's food cake that I decorated elegantly. I imagined the joy in his eyes as he savored my efforts, perhaps a moment to remind him of the bond we shared. But as evening fell and our guests gathered, those warm thoughts collided with a rising tide of anxiety. Once everyone was seated, I proudly presented the lasagna, its cheese bubbling and golden. Michael's eyes lit up momentarily, and I felt a flicker of hope. But before I could bask in that moment, Jessica's voice cut through, laced with insincerity. "Is that supposed to be lasagna? It looks a bit overdone." She laughed, and her comment hit me like ice water. The laughter that followed her words echoed painfully, amplifying my sense of isolation at the table. I forced a smile, but my stomach twisted. It was difficult to focus on Michael's words of praise when all I could hear were the remnants of her sarcasm ringing in my ears. My heart broke a little more as I caught Michael glancing at Jessica for cues, diverting his eyes from the hurt he didn't want to see. As we moved on to dessert, I served the cake, my hands trembling slightly as I cut into it. Jessica leaned back in her chair with a smug grin. "Did you use a box mix, Anne? I can barely tell." The table erupted in laughter again, but this time it didn't feel joyful. It felt like shards of glass piercing my heart. In the ensuing months, I watched helplessly as Jessica's underlying manipulations gained ground. She seamlessly shifted the children's affections, whispering to them during sleepovers, "Grandma is just too soft," I overheard Lily remark once. Each innocent comment felt like a nail driven into my heart, laying bare my worst fear. I was losing more than just my place in the family. I was at risk of losing my grandchildren. Long, quiet evenings filled my home with dread, the once vibrant space now echoing with an uncomfortable stillness. Alone in my thoughts, I wrestled with a profound sense of helplessness. Each family gathering became a calculated contest, and under Jessica's seemingly charming veneer lay a depth of strategy I had not initially sensed. In moments, I would stand at the kitchen sink, scrubbing dishes, hearing echoes of sweeter days when laughter filled the air. Memories of Michael's childhood flooded my heart, stories shared, moments cherished. They seemed to drift farther from reach with every casual remark Jessica made. I wrestled with my emotions, feeling the walls close in. How could I reclaim my place without launching a frontal assault? Each day that passed only deepened the sense of having to tiptoe around a simmering pot, unsure of when it would boil over. Drawing inspiration from my grandmother's well-loved cookbook, a repository of family tradition and love, I came upon a revelation. If I were to confront Jessica, I needed to choose my approach wisely. I wouldn't engage her in the same game of mockery. I would reclaim my voice through nurturing that which binds us as family, our shared history, love, and traditions. I would invite her in, but on my terms. There was power in simplicity, a slow emergence of strength in the recollection of the love I provided. My resolve began to strengthen as I planned a new dinner, an evening dedicated to shared stories, dishes that would rekindle our relationships and remind us of who we once were. With a sense of purpose, I set about drafting a plan. I would not let Jessica's comments define my worth, disguised as familial banter. I would not let them chip away at my spirit. Instead, I would engage her with clarity, fortifying the love I held for my family, reminding them, and even myself, of the bonds that truly matter. In those quiet hours, I felt something shift within me, a determination sharper than I had felt in a long time. I would approach the upcoming family dinner as a new beginning, a chance to reclaim the childhood bonds I nurtured in Michael, without malice, but with the conviction I needed. After all, a mother's love is a force, and I would wield it wisely. Encouraged by the mantra I now held close, "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." I was ready to face Jessica, not to confront, but to assert my rightful place in this family, to remind them of the true spirit of our family that transcended the chaos she had introduced. In the solitude of my kitchen, I chose dignity and love over despair, preparing to make my stand. The days leading up to the dinner were a whirlwind of planning and gathering memories. I flipped through the pages of my grandmother's cookbook, carefully choosing dishes rich in family history, each recipe a testament to the love that had once woven us tightly together. As I ventured into the market, I absorbed the fragrant air of fall, apple cider, cinnamon, warm bread, longing for that feeling of connection and community. In the back of my mind, however, a mix of apprehension and determination lingered. I felt a need to gather information, not just about Jessica's schemes, but also about the subtle shifts in our family dynamics that enabled her to flourish in the cracks of our traditions. I realized that understanding her motivations could be the key to countering her influence. While preparing my dishes over the next week, I used the quiet moments to observe. I paid close attention to the interactions between Michael and Jessica, noting how they exchanged glances with an ease that echoed familiarity. There was a bond growing there, one that replaced the connection I had once shared with my son. One evening, after Jessica and the kids left for home, I sat down with Michael. I stirred the remnants of dinner with a heavy heart, hoping for an opening to discuss my worries. "How do you think things are going with Jessica?" I asked cautiously, watching his face for reactions. He paused, then shrugged, looking toward the window. "Things are fine, Mom. You know, it's just adjusting." His diversion of gaze spoke volumes. A veil of discomfort had settled over him, as if revealing the truth would fracture something he was not ready to confront. Determined not to retreat, I pressed further. "I feel like I'm losing the connection with you. Even the kids. I hear the things they say about me." I dared not name Jessica, hoping to keep the subject open. His silence hung heavily in the air, and then he spoke quietly. "It's just a phase. They're kids, you know. It'll pass." There was an urgency in his tone, as if he feared acknowledging the strife would bring the walls crashing down. But my instincts told me otherwise. This wasn't merely a phase, it was a deliberate thought process Jessica had instigated, a calculated campaign that repositioned her at the helm. I couldn't let this slide. I decided to reach out to Linda again, seeking her perspective. I needed an ally in this struggle. Over coffee at our favorite cafe, I broached the subject carefully, fearing her possible objections. "I feel like Jessica is subtly turning the kids against me. Have you seen anything that points to that?" Linda furrowed her brow thoughtfully, then nodded. "I have noticed some of their comments. Lily said you were too old-fashioned during our last visit," she confided, holding her coffee cup delicately. "But I didn't think much of it. They're impressionable at that age." "I know, but it feels like there's so much more behind it. I think Jessica is grooming them to avoid me." I chose my words carefully, expecting to be met with disbelief, but Linda's thoughtful nod revealed a spark of concern. "Jessica has always been calculating," she admitted. "Maybe you should gather evidence, Anne. Document what they say or how they act. Kids are easily influenced, but they also remember what you show them." The conversation stirred something within me. I began to listen more carefully, drawing upon my emotional intelligence to catalog moments during our family interactions. I played the role of an observer, watching how Jessica interacted with the kids, assessing the influence that blossomed around her. At the next family gathering, I seized my opportunity to test the waters. With Jessica, our interactions remained cordial on the surface, but I began to gently steer conversations that included family history, moments that elevated our shared past. I recounted tales filled with warmth while subtly observing Jessica's reactions to the children. I needed to see if she would continue to sow seeds of discord. I noted how Jessica often dismissed my stories, injecting her own with a condescending tone. I could feel the kids' laughter die down as they turned to gaze at her, taking cues from her responses. I remained composed, watching the dynamic shift further. There was a deliberate force behind her actions, one that sought to create distance rather than foster unity. I began to catch snippets of conversations between Jessica and the kids, ambushing them during casual moments. "Is Grandma nice?" I would ask candidly, gauging their responses. I heard Lily's hesitations, her innocent modifications of the truth under Jessica's shadow, painting a picture of me that was completely skewed. Days turned into weeks, with each family event revealing more layers of Jessica's manipulation. "Children don't understand nuance," I reminded myself. I began to recognize patterns in her behavior. Was it gaslighting? It felt like every time I offered a gentle correction or shared a loving memory, Jessica stepped in, rebutting it with a critique or redirecting their attention. On one occasion, I overheard Jessica at the kitchen table with the children. "Your grandma gets mad when I don't follow her rules," she joked, eyes sparkling with mischief as they giggled. Heart sinking, I stepped back, frozen in realization. This went beyond just positioning herself. Jessica was actively rewriting the narrative of who I was, morphing me from a loving grandma into a strict, outdated presence. Armed with this insight, I gained the clarity I needed for my plan. Awareness had morphed into conviction, a steadfast determination to confront Jessica with dignity and articulate the truths I had gathered. I would remind Michael and the kids of our shared legacy, but I would do it guided by love, not malice. I honed my approach, envisioning how I could broach my findings during our upcoming dinner. Clarity flooded my mind, and my mantra returned, burning into my heart. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. I understood that I must present these truths not as accusations, but as reminders of the love that had been trampled in silence. I breathed deeply, welcoming the calmness within me as I prepared for this decisive moment. I resolved to embrace a new beginning, not just for me, but for all of us, reminding them that love can indeed conquer chaos. The time was ripe, and I was ready to reclaim my family's heart. As the day of the dinner approached, I could feel the tension in the air, as if the universe held its breath alongside me. I spent the morning preparing, my hands steady as I sifted through flour and cracked eggs, blending careful measurements of nostalgia and intention into each dish. The golden warmth of roasted vegetables, simmering soups, and the aroma of fresh bread enveloped me as I envisioned the shared moments that awaited us. But beneath the surface, an undercurrent of anxiety churned. How would Jessica react when I brought to light the misinterpretations and untruths she had spun? Would Michael stand by me, or would he continue to cower under her dominance? I knew I had to hold my ground with love, and that was the crux of my plan. As twilight descended and the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and violet, I set the table with deliberate care, pulling out our best china, the ones that had witnessed countless family milestones. I arranged the cutlery precisely, napkins folded elegantly, creating an inviting tableau that spoke of warmth and harmony. The centerpieces of autumn leaves and glowing candles captured the essence of family gatherings past, a reminder of connection that once felt unshakable. When Michael and the kids arrived, the chaos of greetings filled the air, the sound of joyful laughter bouncing off the walls. I felt a warmth grow in my chest, a flicker of the love I nurtured over the years. Jessica, however, sidled in behind them, her presence like an abrupt chill. She smiled sweetly with that same calculated charm, but I recognized her gaze, watchful, predatory. I steeled myself. Dinner commenced, and amid shared stories and laughter I created a comfortable cadence. "Michael, do you remember the summer I taught you how to ride your bike?" I began, seeking to remind him of the bonds we shared before Jessica's arrival. He looked down at his plate, the smile fading as memories flashed in his eyes. "Yeah, it took forever, didn't it?" "That's exactly what made it so special," I emphasized, gently nudging him to recall that sense of triumph, the feeling of family present in those victories. But as I spoke, Jessica interjected with slights disguised as humor. "You mean all that falling over and frustration, right? Kids today are too sensitive for that." She laughed, glancing at Michael as if searching for his agreement. I felt the collective atmosphere shift, sweets causing a sticky mixture of nostalgia and discomfort to settle over us. The wheels in my mind spun rapidly, and I reminded myself of my purpose. I would not allow her to reclaim this narrative. Instead, I would assert the legacy of warmth we shared. That enduring truth would become the backbone of my response. With deliberation, I pivoted the conversation. "What's your favorite memory of family dinners, kids?" I posed, directing the question toward Lily and Noah. Their small faces lit up with excitement, but as I watched, I also noted Jessica's tightening grip on their attentions, ready to steer the ship. Lily chimed in eagerly. "Remember when Grandma made the huge Christmas dinner? It had so many dishes." Her excitement radiated in the air. "Yes, and we all helped." Noah beamed, eyes dulling slightly as he glanced at Jessica, who shifted uncomfortably. I seized that opening, that reverberation of love. Exactly. That dinner was so wonderful because we all created it together. The laughter, the chaos, it reminded us who we really are. My voice gained a passionate timbre, touching on the stories that strengthened our roots. We can create those moments again, you know? In that pivotal moment, I felt an electric charge in the room. Michael's gaze softened as he began to recall those festive evenings, the warmth of family, the joy of inclusivity, the taste of love seasoned into every spoonful we shared. But Jessica's laughter was quick to rise again, a sharp contrast that layered over the tapestry I hoped to weave. But Grandma is too sentimental. Kids just want the best. Her words were light, but they dripped with an edge. I remained undeterred. Your grandma's stories are part of what makes our family unique, I countered, meeting her eyes squarely. The room stilled, and I felt the underlying tension shift. In that moment, I decided to lay bare the truths I had gathered, the little snippets of her manipulation that had been simmering beneath the surface. Jessica, I need you to know that while this is a new family, we shouldn't forget the legacy that brought us here. I've nurtured Michael, taught him to ride bikes, and I want to nurture my relationship with you and your children too. But I need you to understand where I fit into all of this. I felt Michael's breath catch, observing the shift from humor to sincerity as he dug deeper into the conversation. Mom, I know we can move forward together, but we all have to do our part. The children's faces lit up with curiosity, as if they were no longer pawns in a game, but participants in something more significant. Family unity. Sensing Jessica poised for a rebuttal, I continued. It's crucial to welcome stories from all of us. They ground us, connect us. When we dismiss the past, what do we truly have? Jessica's grin faltered for just a moment. A flicker of vulnerability passed across her features. I seized that moment. This was my chance. Love is patient, I said, leaning in slightly. It can withstand the difficulties that come our way. We need to embrace the chaos, not let it define us. Michael nodded slowly, a contemplative look settling in as he glanced between us. Time seemed to pause as he weighed the complexities of our dynamic against the love we all harbored. And then, a pivotal beat later, it happened. Jessica softening ever so slightly, her eyes glistening with something, understanding, fear. I took the opportunity to bolster that moment of revelation. We can begin anew, gather around the table together, not as adversaries but as a family. Let's thrive in our differences, share our stories with each other genuinely. Silence enveloped us, pregnant with possibility. I could feel the fragile threads of our relations slowly knitting back together. Michael met my gaze, searching for reassurance, and I offered it without hesitation. In that moment, standing tall amidst the shifting dynamics, emboldened by conviction and clarity, I knew that love would reclaim our family, taking root in the heart of our lives anew. As I caught my own reflection in a nearby window amidst the candlelight, I felt more than just a mother. I was an architect of our family's future, and I was resolute. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. The game had shifted, and I stood ready to cleanse the air of deceit with the power of love. The evening continued on a tentative note, the air thick with possibilities. I needed to ensure that the love we had would surface, untainted by Jessica's influence. As I cleared dinner plates, I felt a determination well within me, ready to create space for genuine family connection. Let's share our favorite family traditions, I suggested warmly to the table. What do you love most about our time together? The children's eyes lit up, and excitement buzzed as they glanced at one another. Noah broke the silence, eager to speak. I like when we all tell stories before dessert, like the time Grandma told the spooky ghost story. Lily jumped in, and we screamed. I was so scared but loved it. The enthusiasm reminded me of the familial warmth we had built before Jessica's arrival. I decided to ride that wave. Exactly. The richness of our stories shapes our experience. They connect us. My heart raced as I recognized the possibility. We could turn this dinner into something more than just a meal. But Jessica shifted uneasily at the table. "Sounds childish," she quipped, a hint of disdain in her tone. I refused to let her negativity wash over our moment. "Childish? Stories build our family legacy. Why should we cast them aside?" I locked eyes with Michael, hoping to draw him into the conversation further. "Don't you want to remember those great times, Jessica?" I pressed, feeling emboldened. Creating new traditions while honoring the past is key. The tension was thick, but as I spoke, I could see Michael contemplating my words. He looked torn, as if battling between the unconditional loyalty to his wife and the affection for his mother. "Mom's right," he finally said, glancing at the children who watched with wide eyes. "What new traditions can we create together?" The room buzzed with energy as Lily chimed in. "Let's make a family recipe book. We could each share our favorite dishes and stories behind them." "Yes," echoed Noah, "and we can have a family game night. Everyone brings their favorite game." A wave of relief washed over me as I saw Jessica's discomfort. This was our moment. The children were rallying behind the idea of a shared family identity, one that she had often tried to undermine. Jessica looked uncomfortable, glancing between us with a forced smile. "You kids don't really understand family dynamics," she muttered defensively. "Actually, we do," Michael countered, turning to face her. "We want everyone's voice to matter. We can grow together rather than apart." In that moment, I witnessed Jessica's annoyed facade flicker. Could it be she was considering the implications of her words? I pressed ahead. "We would create traditions that honor the love we share. Memories matter. Let's make a rule that stories are safe," Michael suggested, looking hopeful. "Exactly. Stories are part of who we are," I affirmed. "We need to embrace them." Jessica huffed but fell silent. There was power in what we were creating. Traditions are more than just gatherings. They're connections we pass down, I explained, weaving our past into our future. As the children shared their memories and ideas with bounding enthusiasm, I felt a sense of unity emerging at the table. Jessica seemed cornered. The more we reminisced, the more the past became alive again. Stories filled with laughter and warmth, making it harder for Jessica to insist on detachment. "Let's celebrate our unique stories," I added, seeing the rich potential of these moments. "All voices matter, particularly in the legacy we create for the children." Slowly, the warmth settled in. The children's laughter became infectious, pulling Michael back toward us. He was recognizing the strength of community in the chaotic backdrop Jessica had fostered. "Maybe we can tie our new traditions into the old ones, like remembering the stories we've shared while cooking together," Lily suggested, painting visions of future gatherings filled with laughter. "Yes, let's revive those stories and share new ones," Noah joined in, looking at Jessica for her reaction as if challenging her to participate. Jessica crossed her arms defensively, her expression troubled. But then I saw a flicker, a tiny crack in her shield. For the first time, a hint of doubt crossed her face, a glimmer of realization that she was outnumbered. "This sounds nice, but," she began, almost hesitating. "It's not about living in the past, Jessica, but carrying it forward." I leaned in, my voice warm and inviting. "This is a chance to bind us together." The kids chimed in with excitement, feeding off the energy. "Family recipe books and game nights. We could do a movie night too." Their enthusiasm lit the atmosphere into something electric. As the conversation flowed, I knew we were strengthening the threads binding us together, reminding ourselves what it meant to be family. The importance of shared values, love, and understanding. As I caught Michael's approving gaze, It felt like a culmination of all I had fought for and nurtured. I realized that rebuilding our family wouldn't happen overnight, but the seeds planted this evening were a step in the right direction. Feeling a calm affirmation surge through me, I whispered my mantra once more to myself. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. I knew we were on the right path, restoring the love that would carry us through. I embraced this moment, this new silence where connections began to thrive again. We were a family amidst the chaos, ready to find our way home together. As dinner wound down, an infectious wave of laughter filled the air, draping warmth over our once fractured gathering. The children's faces glowed with excitement, and their joy deepened the roots of connection that had started to blossom just hours earlier. But as soon as I dared to hope for a smooth transition to a joyful future, Jessica cleared her throat, ready to inject her commentary into our newfound harmony. All right, everyone, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Traditions take time to build, and we still have practicalities to consider. Her sarcasm hit me like ice water. Michael's brow furrowed, tension rippling through him. But we need to prioritize family and connection, Jess, he replied, his voice steady yet strained. We're talking about creating lasting memories here. My heart raced with determination. I had to protect the fragile threads of hope that formed tonight. This isn't just about efficiency, I jumped in, my voice steady. It's about love and creating a family history our children can carry forward. With every word, I felt the conviction rise within me. Having Michael at my side offered encouragement, but I could see Jessica's discomfort begin to brew. I appreciate that, she retorted, crossing her arms. But how do emotions help us if we still need to get dinner on the table tonight? I leaned in, emphasizing my point. It's not about living in the past, Jessica. It's about carrying forward the love we've always shared. Michael looked at the kids who seemed sucked into the gravity of this moment. Love matters more than any checklist. Our kids deserve to feel this connection, he said firmly. Seeing him take a stand warmed my heart. Perhaps this unification would grow stronger if we each contributed our belief in what family means. Traditions are an investment in our future, I added. They're how we teach our kids they belong, fostering a sense of identity. Jessica hesitated, her defenses starting to unravel. Okay, fine, but what about logistics? She asked, almost deflated. I gathered courage. It's about crafting memories, not counting minutes. If we guide our children through this chaos with love, they'll know how to navigate relationships when they grow up. The silence that followed hung heavy in the air. Yet, in that pregnant pause, I sensed a transformation brewing. The children leaned in closer, their wide eyes soaking in the importance of our words. Come on, Jess, Noah piped up, hopeful and innocent. Don't you want to have fun with us? You can bring your ideas too. Their perspective was heartfelt, striking a blow against Jessica's hardened exterior. I watched as she wrestled with the reality of being outnumbered as doubt flickered in her eyes. It was Michael who finally broke through the tension. This is not about disregarding your role, Jess. It's about building something together, showing our kids how to love. At that moment, I could feel the pulse of something vital in our midst, something ripe for nurturing. The walls Jessica had constructed started to wobble. Let's make this a two-way street, I urged, prepared to push onward for the sake of our family's future. Everyone's voice matters. We can shape a home rooted in memories and love. Silence enveloped the room, transforming into a cloak of anticipation wrapping us closely together. I held on to my mantra, a lifeline. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. We had come too far to turn back. The children's faces glowed with eagerness, demanding change. What if we create a game night? We can each pick a game, Lily suggested, her excitement tangible. Yes, and we can have themed dinner nights, Noah added, enthusiasm pouring from him like a burst of sunlight. Their innocent ideas ignited something in all of us. Even Jessica began to relax, her arms falling from their defensive posture. Perhaps she sensed the realignment gathering amongst us. This was pivotal, a moment that began to weave us back together as a family. It wasn't merely about rules or ideals. It was about actively fighting for our unity and building bridges, not walls. As the conversation swirled with ideas of traditions anew, I reveled in the possibilities that lay ahead. I could see the seeds taking root, flourishing against the odds we had faced together. In all that chaos, we had begun to find our way home. What blossomed was not just nostalgia, but a longing for connection and understanding. This was the essence of family, and I was not about to let it slip through my fingers. With my heart full of hope, I whispered my mantra once again. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. Feeling the echoes of love fill the space around us as we prepared for the journey ahead.